So this day was great. We ended up going to Yorktown, and I thought might kind of be a little boring, but it was awesome. So we got up a little bit earlier and we decided to go out to the battlefield first. So their visitor center and the battlefield are right next to each other. This picture was taken in front of the visitor center. And so we went inside and we got our Junior Ranger program for Yorktown. So you can check out Junior Ranger program for children, and it will tell you all about it from the NPS. So this is the ride along the river. So to drive there, it's all along the river, and I just took some shots. There was this huge ship out there, and I thought that it was part of like some sort of reenactment or something, but it wasn't. It was just sitting out there, and again, along the James River. So this here was up at the actual battlefield. We got to just go around the top a little bit and then through the museum type area, not too much, because we were headed over to here, which is the American Revolution Museum, and this was incredible. So the morning of, we were to meet some friends over here and listen to one of Mr. Olson's speeches, and it was really good. It was like a sermon. This is us listening to him like recreate history from a biblical standpoint, and it was just really amazing. I've never heard anyone speak that way, especially regarding history, and it just kind of came alive. And it was all Bible based, which is so important nowadays. To get that biblical worldview and a biblical worldview like on the history side, and that was just really encouraging to me. So this is just a little bit inside of the museum. We didn't have a lot of time to spend in the museum, but just a couple really cool, neat pics. I wanted to see outside, which you'll see in a couple minutes. So we were kind of hurrying through the museum because we were going to be dancing later. But look at the art and look at the incredible artifacts that they have throughout this museum. If you were in the area, I definitely would say to go to Yorktown. It is not, I thought it was going to be a bunch of army stuff, and it's totally more than a bunch of army stuff hanging out. There is definitely war related stuff, but there's so much more. I couldn't wait to get outside. So this is all like an encampment. So it was recreated from like a standpoint of like, this is how the soldiers and stuff would have been camped. And it was really interesting to see like how different levels or of military would have been placed in different types of tents and that type of stuff, and all the different things that came along with that as far as cooking and the lack of stuff. And we just read the Winter of Red Snow, and it really kind of put it in perspective. I love this. It has how much each thing would cost in order to do the laundry for it or whatever, and I just love this. I told the kids maybe I should put this inside of the laundry room as well. I think many of you moms might be feeling the same way, like, okay, this much for, a pair of pants and this much for a shirt. So I had to take a picture of that because it was really cool. But imagine doing your laundry on a big kettle like that. Wow, that's just incredible. So then as we walked further along here was what I really got to see, and it just was amazing. So it's kind of like they recreate the whole like scene of how people would live, and there was like farmland, so there was like an open field there that you walk past, and then they recreated pretty much every single part of like what it would have been like. I love this chimney. So inside the house they had this chimney, and all I can remember is, I don't know if you've ever read Little House on the Prairie, but they talk about a chimney, and in one of the books it talks about him making a chimney similar to this, and the chimney catches fire, and you could definitely see how the chimney could catch fire. And I'm a good visual like thinker, but I could not picture a chimney made out of wood and clay. And then I saw it there and I was like, that is so neat. So outside of that was this right here, which was interesting because the ashes were in the top of it, and then like it kind of V's down and has a bucket underneath. I believe, I'm going to look this up further, I believe that this would have been how they rendered lye. because there's ashes all in the top of this, and then underneath there's like a little spigot, and then there was a bucket under the spigot. So they probably poured water over, and then out came the lye. This was inside of that cabin that I just took a picture of, the chimney, and this was supposed to be like a regular home. So she was talking about different foods they ate and how they preserve things. So this was a little bit cabinet, and this is where they put their foods. So it wasn't anything fancy. It wouldn't have preserved anything, but it would have kept the flies off, and that's how they did that. Inside there was also the bedroom, and this was the bedroom space. There was also a loft, which I did not get a picture of, but so you can just really get an eyesore for what that exactly was in there. It was really cool. Oh my goodness, the garden. I am so in love with this garden. If you see this here, I am going to try to recreate this for my house. I loved the way that this was set up. I love the center path. There was just such a simple beauty to it. I was like, I don't know if it's because it was winter at home and this was just like spring had sprung here already, but it was just incredible to me. I loved that the fence is solid all the way around so no animals can get in. I also loved they had like the water buckets at the end, but then if you can see along the sides, all of the sides are all the herbs. So they had herbs and they had a few berries along the sides, and then inside was their main garden. I think that that was just like incredible. I don't know. I just loved it. See, you can see little signs up top with the name of the herbs or whatever all the way around. And they planted all those all the way around. The whole perimeter of it was herbs. And then there was a couple like raspberry bushes or whatever around the perimeter. And then inside was just all their regular crops. And here's a closer picture up. They didn't have, it's March, they didn't have too many crops going, but they just had them mounded up a little bit and simply put there. And you can see along the edge, they just had wood to make that edge path for those herbs over there. Yeah, I was really inspired by this. So I think I'm going to use some of the techniques in my own garden. And so she really liked the fencing that looked like this. It wouldn't be very chicken proof, but it was cute. So this is in front of one of the other gardens. And then this was in front of a big field that they would have planted a crop, which would have been like flax or something. This gentleman was incredible. He showed us inside of this barn. And then he also went over to show us exactly how they made flax. So inside the barn, they had the tobacco hanging up high. And so they used to dry all the tobacco in the barns like this. And they would keep a mattress over in the corner for somebody to sleep in so nobody would steal this cash crop of tobacco. They sent the tobacco over to England. And that was how they made money for the colonies and such. And that all worked out fine until things started to change and England stopped buying the tobacco from them. So then they needed to end up changing their crops to a different crop. And it was more of a self-sufficiency instead of trying to grow for England. They tried to be more independent at that point. My little daughter, she was so amazed at all this tobacco hanging up in the rafters. So she was just like enthralled with it all. But he took the time to just tell us this whole story, why there was a mattress on the floor in the corner. And then he also told us this is what they did. They shoved it all into barrels like this and kept pressing it down, and that's how it got shipped. So then they changed over to a crop that was more sustainable for them, and they made flax together. So he invited my children to go and make flax with him. And I don't know if you saw that little short, but I had a little short of my daughter making flax with him, and they would have grown, instead of the tobacco, flax for their own clothing. If you don't know, flax is linen. So this field here would have originally been tobacco and now flax. So just showing other areas that they had fenced off for different animals and such. And here's another view of that flax garden that was tobacco before. And then we're just walking through the village. It was all paved like this. It was really an enjoyable trip, and I would definitely do it again. We only had from about 9 in the morning until 1 in the afternoon, so not very long. We really could have used some more time, but I was so happy with what we had, and I would definitely do it again. So if you're in town, I would stop by Yorktown or make a point to make it a trip. All right, hope you guys all enjoyed. Bye.